Good morning, fans of professional wrestling, and welcome to PWR Today for Tuesday, March the 16th, 316, as some people call it, 2021. That's right, this is Matthew, joined alongside Linda Kay. The man they call Meathead is off on assignment today. He got really into that whole daylight savings time, and I can't help but think he's out doing some more research on the history of daylight savings time. Linda, you were a part of the show yesterday. I listened. I was not on the show, but my goodness, he really gave us an in-depth analysis about the history of daylight savings time. It was a very educational show.
Yeah, I learned something new, as I normally do, each show with the man they call Meathead. But I just got to say, today being 316 day, oh, hell yeah. I'm pumped because not only big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin, but that promo we saw on Raw last night reminded me of how 25 years ago, when I was there, I was at King of the Ring in 1996 when Stone Cold Steve Austin started the whole Austin 316 movement.
What?
What?
See, I phrased my what as like an inquisitive what, not like an imperative statement what. But no, that is actually, I think I have heard that story at some point. But my goodness, what a monumental show to be at. I've never been to a WWE show that I've necessarily had a bad experience, or that wasn't noteworthy, at least in the framework of my life. But as far as top tier historic shows, that's in the very, very top of the list, regardless of who you are.
Yeah, it was actually my first ever live WWE show.
Oh my goodness. So not just first pay-per-view, but first ever live WWE show was the night Stone Cold 316 was created. Or Austin 316, I guess, is the proper
Yeah.
term. But I say that because I think of that really being the kickoff for Stone Cold. Prior to that, you had the build up, and of course he won the King of the Ring. But my goodness, that when I think Stone Cold, I think that show, not just with the Austin 316 taking off, but I think that's really where you got that basic creation of that character.
Absolutely. And just that switch, we got to know a little bit of the ringmaster, Steve Austin, but that switch that happened when he beat Jake the Snake and shot that promo at him, wow. That was the start of something tremendous, as we all know.
Fantastic. Well, if you want to make a switch and change things up a little bit, head on over to manscaped.com, punch in code PWR, and save 20% at checkout. Also, head on over and look at the offerings from Collar and Elbow. Code PWR360 gets you 10% off, and I believe they're currently doing $40 or free shipping on any orders over $40 or more. And I was just over there the other day, Linda, a lot of new merch. And I was telling Meathead the other night, a lot of really good deals, a lot of really good looking clearance items that you can get for a heck of a bargain.
Yeah, I've got my closet full of collar and elbow shirts. I'm going to pack a lot of those shirts into my luggage for WrestleMania as well. Going to show off that collar and
Tickets
elbow.
on sale today, as a matter of fact.
Well, did I not hear them mention last night, though, that the on sale date would be moved and to be announced later in the week?
I must have missed that. Interesting. I thought the initial plan was for them to go on sale today, but it's been pushed back, huh?
Yeah, there really wasn't much said about it. You know how last week on Raw there were tons of commercials and spots for it, but yeah, like midway through Raw, I want to say Tom Phillips mentioned how the on sale date is being pushed back and would be announced at a later date this week or next week, even, I think. So that's still, great news, shocking news to me. Maybe we'll get more, news on that later in the day or later in the week, obviously, hopefully.
Yeah, and you've just got to wonder, how much is up in the air as far as capacity? I know there's been rumors of numbers and numbers being tossed around, but you're really trying to ticket this thing with no announcement of how many people you can actually put in the building, which I think the opportunities, if you're looking for something, day of or a couple of days before, I got a feeling they're going to be trying to push that limit as far as capacity just up until, days before the event. So if there's a year where you might want to wait till if you do wait to the last minute for a year for WrestleMania ever, this might be the year. You got to wonder, a couple of days prior to the event, if you're going to be having like those Ticketmaster drops where they're saying, okay, we can get another 2,000 in, we can get another 3,000 in. It might be a little bit better last minute ticket situation than you've seen in years past.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably going to be along those lines. For example, for the Milwaukee Bucks games, they've been releasing single game tickets for by month or a couple of games at a time, I guess. But I get the emails that say new tickets released for tonight's game.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a matter of gauging, like the pods. It's like a pod from 1 to 6. How much more space can we now have based on what is already purchased? That was surprising that it did get pushed back, and I wonder why. But obviously, it's to make everything better as a whole, meaning safety, environment, and just whatever else. Yeah. But they did say it is still the plan. It wasn't like, it's been postponed. They made sure to say it's still the plan that they go on sale. So that's
my question to you: do you remember a year for WrestleMania where they have had as low of an entry level ticket as they announced for this year? Basically I guess the number that I read was tickets start at $35. I do not recall a WrestleMania where you could even get within a couple of miles of the building for a $35 ticket.
Yeah, that did surprise me. I mean, that's great though. I mean, maybe just, they're taking into play a lot of people are sacrificing maybe what they maybe might be putting toward maybe more, I want to say important, because wrestling is important to all of us, but necessities, I guess. I don't know.
No, it's been a very tough year for a lot of people, a very economically tough year for a lot of people, and maybe it's maybe it's taken into account that, all right, we've got to maybe kind of broaden the scope of what we can actually get into the building. But again, I'm not sure exactly how many of those tickets are going to be available, or if it's just a softer number to get people to look and say, oh, okay, well, that's not available, but maybe I can do this or that. But regardless, hopefully we get the further announcement of that on sale date, and people can actually get some WrestleMania tickets and have an actual live in-person WrestleMania this year as planned. Well, speaking of WrestleMania, we got quite a few announcements and quite a bit more of that road to WrestleMania paved last night. We kicked off Raw with the announcement that signed, sealed, and delivered, it is Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. I, for one, thought we might actually have an announcement last night for some type of Fastlane match that would then give us that final championship situation for Mania. That was not to be the case. It was announced at the start of the show. We had a little bit of interaction with Miz mixing himself up in that picture that would ultimately result in a Miz versus Drew McIntyre match. And that first segment would actually bring out Sheamus attacking Bobby Lashley to give us the match that we got as the main event of last night's show, Sheamus versus Bobby Lashley. I don't think there's any surprises here. Drew McIntyre went on to defeat The Miz, actually choosing not to pin him once he hit the Claymore, rather choosing to submit him with Bobby Lashley's Hurt Lock. Yeah. Then we would have, to close the show, we kind of got the other end of that segment with Lashley going up against Sheamus with Drew McIntyre seated outside. This would show Lashley spearing Sheamus while Sheamus went for the Brogue Kick to pick up the win. And, at the end of that first segment, we got we got Lashley attacking McIntyre while McIntyre was distracted by something or looked away. And then we almost got a mirror image of that at the end of the show with McIntyre hitting the Claymore while Lashley was, I don't know if he was looking at MVP or was semi-distracted. So WrestleMania, at least as far as the main event title or the WWE Championship picture goes, looks like it's written. Bobby Lashley versus Sheamus. Linda, how do you feel about the announcement of that and how we saw it play out last night?
Well, I mean, I think we all knew it would wind up being Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. I was a little bit surprised how it was just announced versus just playing, having it be a part of what took place last night, because it could have easily been a triple threat match at Fastlane for the shot to face Bobby Lashley, or not, I shouldn't say triple threat, excuse me, but or maybe a triple threat between Miz, Drew, Sheamus. That could have been something that could have taken place at Fastlane. I know Drew McIntyre and Sheamus already have a match set at Fastlane, but that could have been altered a bit and changed up. But I guess I was just a little thrown off or confused how Sheamus somehow inserted him into this whole thing with Bobby Lashley when the match was already set between Drew and Bobby. I know that Drew and Sheamus have their best of 3 match this weekend at Fastlane, but I feel he could have just interfered within Drew's match against The Miz, or I don't know. I felt it was a little off how Sheamus attacked Bobby Lashley like that.
And that brings us to what I thought was kind of the overall theme for last night, was the fact that you've got a pay-per-view this Sunday that you are, still trying to fully book. We had matches announced on the show last night for, this Sunday's pay-per-view. WWE, I think this has been their best Rumble to WrestleMania bill that I can remember in recent years. A lot of times you've got whether the Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, or Roadblock, whatever you called it a few years ago, kind of thrown in the middle. This year, it's felt like, it's been very intriguing. I mean, you had Miz take the title off of McIntyre at the Elimination Chamber and Lashley win it the following night. You've gotten a lot of business done and a lot of very intriguing booking between Rumble and WrestleMania. Tonight was really that first night where I felt like WWE slipped, or last night rather, where I felt like WWE slipped back into kind of what they're prone to do this time of year, and kind of make some of these Raws and pay-per-views in between feel like placeholders. And I think that's just what was so confusing, was when the show opened, when I first saw the graphic, I thought, oh, Lashley and McIntyre. I'm like, oh, that's WrestleMania. That's the pay-per-view after next. It felt like a little bit was taken away from Fastlane by having these WrestleMania matches announced. We'd get to another one that we'd have later in the show. So I think the final tally after the show was you had 2 WrestleMania matches announced and 1 Fastlane match announced, which just, it made it feel a little bit, kind of convoluted that you're booking 2 pay-per-views at the same time. I'm very intrigued by Lashley and McIntyre. Let's say that's what we're going to get. And I think there's still an outside chance that, I feel like McIntyre is going to, pick up the win over Sheamus. I think that might still be a card in their back pocket. If Sheamus is to get the decisive win over McIntyre on Sunday, we might potentially still be looking at a triple threat for that title. I don't think it's going to happen, but my goodness, Sheamus has really been, having some good matches with McIntyre and Lashley, and he's been hanging around. He's been hanging around this close to WrestleMania, and he was in that match in the main event for some type of reason, and it may just be to buy them time to Sheamus, McIntyre this weekend, and then get us to McIntyre and Lashley. But what's interesting about the McIntyre and Lashley matchup is my thought process all along has been they're going to take the title off of McIntyre so he can win it in front of people at WrestleMania because he did not get that moment last year.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you've had Bobby Lashley, whose story this year kind of runs parallel to what we saw with McIntyre last year.
Yeah.
And it's been as a heel, but it's been, within the context of somebody who entered the year in this horrible angle with Lana and Rusev, who got with MVP and has seen this, stable really take off. And what I'm so interested in the booking, and I don't think it's an easy call either way. You get Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre in front of, say, 25 to 50,000 people. I'm not so sure who that crowd is going to be for. And, you put this thing on paper back several months ago, you put Drew McIntyre up against any heel, the crowd's going to want to see Drew, have his moment because he did not get it last year. I feel like Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business have been booked so well. I think that's going to be a 50-50 split down the middle crowd, if not a crowd that might be a little bit more interested in Bobby Lashley not being, a 5-week champion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think majority of fans do appreciate Drew McIntyre as the WWE champion. However, like you've said, that momentum, that push that Bobby Lashley has had has just kind of reintroduced how great of a superstar he is. Same or similar story with McIntyre. I mean, Drew McIntyre said it himself last night. You had 16 years, mine was 17 years. However, Drew was champion for a while. Not saying he wasn't a great champion, because he sure was. I mean, he carried and kept that championship during the strange COVID year, but he was still champion for a while. Sometimes, you just want change. And the title being given to someone like Bobby Lashley, where the fans can really back, behind him and really know his story, it's very deserving. Versus if, I mean, Sheamus has, been wrestling for a long time as well, but let's just say Sheamus had the title going into WrestleMania. The fans majority would still go for Drew McIntyre, I would say.
Right.
But with Bobby Lashley, you bring up a great point.
And that's what's been so interesting with the Bobby Lashley push. It's been the build since he won the U.S. title, and basically his domination while he had the U.S. title, and of course, the night after he lost the title, which he was not involved in the decision. He wins the WWE title. It's been very Brock Lesnar-esque. I don't know that they've protected anybody like they have, Lashley since Lesnar. So it's a very interesting situation because they have built up that person. Now, Drew McIntyre has another person similar to who he had last year in Brock Lesnar to go up against. It's not going to be, it's a very, very formidable opponent. So I think that is one thing they've done brilliantly. The decision they make, we won't know until WrestleMania, whether it be night 1 or night 2. But we're going into WrestleMania really looking at this thing as, okay, it could go either way. And I think that is, as a fan, is the best place to be in.
Absolutely agree.
The other match that we had made, not for WrestleMania, but for Fastlane, we got not one, but 2 segments of Shane and Braun Strowman last night. And as much as I'm enticed by the idea of seeing these two potentially work a match together, the getting there has not been any fun for me. And the getting there has really involved 2 unlikable characters that I don't really know what I'm supposed to think of either one. It's basically been segments of Shane coming out and calling Braun stupid. And the problem is just, I think Braun's not really doing much to not play into that. And it's basically Shane calling Braun stupid and Braun just screaming at Shane for several weeks in a row now. This got us a quasi match last night that resulted in Braun taking, I believe it was 3 shots to the head with the video camera and going through the announce table. At this point, I said, okay, with what I've seen these last several weeks, I haven't enjoyed it, but seeing some physicality and seeing Shane work and do a big spot, it kind of got me back into it. Then Shane went under the ring and brought out not 1, but 2 buckets of slime. He slimed him.
Yeah, because that's how I was hanging underneath the ring.
Right. What was it? Was this, you can't do that on television? What was the Nickelodeon show where they typically would slime the guest? I think it was thinking, You Can't.
Well, before that, it was Double Dare.
Yes, that is what I'm thinking about. There was
the slime, or the Nickelodeon at the Teen Choice Awards or the Teen Nickelodeon Awards, they would slime them. But random side note, I remember a couple months ago on SmackDown when Braun did get slimed. Who was that by? Because they got Kayla Braxton instead, and I can't think of who that feud was with, but not the first time he got slimed, or this time paint or whatever it was. But to your point about how Shane's just been calling him stupid and Braun's just been asking, I want an apology. It's more awkward is that this is the monster among men. This is a huge monster that should just be going to whoop Shane's butt.
Right.
Not necessarily just asking an apology. I mean, he is a big man, but I mentioned last week with Meathead, when Shane was saying, why I'm calling you out, why am I doing this? I wanted him to say, because I'm a McMahon. Just get that strong heel character. That's true. And that's probably why Braun's being so sympathetic with him, or not sympathetic, but just so nice. Just demanding him saying sorry and this and that, not just going to whoop him. And it's cool that they are building for this match. That's fine, because we know if this does extend to WrestleMania, we'll get another high fly and leap from Shane McMahon somewhere. Again, maybe the ship at Raymond James Stadium. But how long can you extend this stupid thing? I mean, so Fastlane, sure, but this should be something I would foresee going into Mania. Now what, though?
I really wish this was getting the treatment that Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton are getting. We had a minute segment with Alexa Bliss. We had a minute to 2 with Randy Orton. It was there enough to keep it in the forefront of your head, but not to just beat you over. Back to another head analogy, beat you over the head with it. It's a featured segment every single week now. And last night it got 2 segments, and I apologize. I omitted the part of the segment where Shane played hopscotch outside of the ring.
Yes.
Yeah. I left that I was so overwhelmed by the whole slamming. I forgot the Shane hopscotch. And I will say this, not that I'm, not that there always has to be blood or this, that, or the other, but I think the spot with the camera, I think, I don't know if he was trying to get him busted open the hard way or not, but you had 3 direct shots from the camera to Braun's head. This is a spot where I think a little bit of color would have helped, what they were trying to convey. Although we got color, it was just the color green and not red, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, we've got them announced for Fastlane, so we'll see what happens there. And like you said, I expect this does continue out to WrestleMania. The WrestleMania match that we did have announced last night was a bit of a surprise to me. I guess I've got to go into the actual match first. We had the Hurt Business going up against New Day, and for your 11th time, I believe, New Day, once again, the WWE Tag Team Champions, defeating the Hurt Business. Linda, did you expect to see this title change on Raw last night?
I honestly did not. Meathead did ask me that last night, and I was like, no, there's so much momentum with the Hurt Business. They've got all the gold. They're going to hold on to all that gold for a while. But nope, proved wrong, but pleasantly proved wrong, as the New Day are part of Team Longtime. And I know I didn't get any points because the championships were attained on a Monday Night Raw. However, knowing they are going to get this match, and it is in place. So, I mean, unless something kabuki happens where they lose the titles in some random challenge leading up to WrestleMania, they are going to have this title match. And I'll let you explain how that came about, because it was a surprise to me as well.
Yeah, after they won the titles, we had AJ Styles and Almas stroll down the ring and express interest in basically being a tag team and challenge the New Day. And it was later announced in the show, AJ Styles and Almas versus the New Day at WrestleMania. This, maybe the hottest trajectory you've ever seen a tag team on. Two individuals who were not a tag team announce themselves as a tag team and have a championship match at WrestleMania, all within like 30 minutes of becoming a tag team.
Yes. A little surprised how Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander didn't, like, they just didn't even show them after the match was done. Because there were, a couple of weeks leading up how there could have been a little tension between Shelton and Cedric, but that was swayed for a bit the last few weeks, I would say. However, this could, maybe they don't want to break up the Hurt Business yet. I don't know. Again, I was surprised that they did lose the titles last night. But even more surprised at how this other match, I mean, that's just like a way for AJ Styles to get a match. I mean, there's still time for a feud to be brewing. I'm just surprised that the match was just laid down that quick. Almost is going to make his in-ring debut at WrestleMania. So it's almost like he's getting that celebrity treatment where, you get him have your debut match at WrestleMania. Okay. Is he the draw that we want to see? I mean, I know AJ Styles is definitely a draw for WrestleMania, so there's a way to get him in, but just interesting. We've got 4 weeks now to see.
Yeah, we're at the 4 week. I think the fun part's going to be the getting there. I mean, AJ Styles, now that he's got, a bodyguard who's like a little brother to him, as he says, this is peak, fun AJ Styles.
Yeah,
and I think the getting there is going to be the fun part, the dynamic between him and Almas. I just, I got to say, I was a little bit let down because when AJ Styles came out, I thought it was going to basically be a bleed over into the next segment. And it dawned on me, it's like, okay, there's nothing brewing for AJ for Mania. Who am I missing? Who's going to come out of the woodworks and give us, an AJ Styles match? Is Taker really done? Can Taker pull another one out, in front of, 45,000 people or whatever it ends up being? And then that was in my head. And then 2 minutes later, we get this announced. So I think it's going to be fun getting there. Would I be lying if I said I did not want to see AJ Styles in some type of singles match at WrestleMania? Yeah, I would be, because I think that, that AJ Styles Mania match is always something to look forward to. And not that this is not going to be, but, it shuts down other possibilities for AJ.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just stellar matches at Mania, as you just said. But I do agree that the getting there will be the fun part, and it will be entertaining the whole ride there.
In other Raw action, we saw the team of Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose pick up the win over Lana and Naomi. We also had Damian Priest picking up a win against Jackson Riker that eventually got us Bad Bunny and Elias interaction that would bring The Miz in to attack Bad Bunny with the guitar. So, I think we knew that this was the way that we were going the whole time, but it looked like really gave us kind of our next direct line to some type of Bad Bunny Miz interaction at WrestleMania. So Bad Bunny, you guys talked about it yesterday. He's on the poster, and it's looking like he's going into a program with Miz at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I was going to mention, while he is the 24/7 champion, so of course, he's a champion. He should be on the poster. He should get a match or several matches during WrestleMania. But as we saw, he did relinquish his title to R-Truth, or Truth 316, or whatever it was last night. That was quite hilarious. Gosh, you gotta love R-Truth. But now that little bit of sentiment of him giving him that title, because he's like, "That's your baby. I respect you." Made me like Bad Bunny a little bit more.
Yes,
a little bit.
And basically, we saw something last night I don't think that we've ever seen. We saw that, you can apparently trade a title away for WWE merch, which is quintessentially what R-Truth did.
Yes. Yes. I was hoping Bad Bunny would have had that 316 title on his shoulder coming out later, but that's okay.
Yeah.
He accepted the gifts.
Someone who did not trade his title away was Matt Riddle, picking up the win and a successful U.S. Championship defense against Mustafa Ali, as well as Asuka picking up the win against Shayna Baszler. This would see Shayna Baszler attack Asuka after the match, and then Asuka would get the better hand on Shayna Baszler. I know that Raw Women's Championship is still kind of up in the air for Mania, but the brief interaction we had between Asuka and Shayna Baszler last night, it was, very intense, very physical, and I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that.
Agreed. That just made me think there was no Charlotte.
Yes, exactly. And of course, we have got also have looming on the horizon the Raw premiere that's supposed to be taking place here in the next few weeks. An NXT transplant that we haven't seen in a while that's supposed to be popping up on Raw, and one Rhea Ripley. So how will she factor into all of this? I mean, I couldn't imagine that she doesn't appear before Mania. I mean, they've been running the teaser promos for almost a month now. So you got to think she factors into the equation in some capacity. Someone who will also potentially factor into the equation at Fastlane this Sunday might be The Fiend. We had Alexa Bliss basically issue a challenge, if you will, saying that Sunday is going to be Orton's chance to take her out of his life forever. We don't really know what that means, but Orton accepted it. So you got to think some business is going to get done on Sunday as it pertains to The Fiend, Orton, and Alexa Bliss. So, yet another little spot on the road to WrestleMania that hopefully we will get some answers to this Sunday. Well, that has been, we said we were going 20 today. I think we went a little bit over that, but a Raw full of action and a week that's going to be a busy week in professional wrestling with the pay-per-view this Sunday. So we will be back with you guys tomorrow, myself and the man they call Meathead, to talk a little more wrestling. So for Linda Kay, this has been Matthew Thomas, and we will talk to you tomorrow.